Hey friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan and you are on my homestead here in Wyoming. And today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video and just sit down and talk to you and walk you through a lot of the things that we store food-wise. I know that there are only two of us, so when you see 5-gallon buckets with gamma lids on them or tons of food, it can seem like a lot. Or when I talk about the meat we have in our freezers, it seems like a lot, but there's actually a reason behind all of those things. And I wanted to give you a little bit of insight as to why we are so passionate about making sure we always have food on hand. The first reason is kind of the most obvious, and that is we live pretty far out of town. We're about a half an hour out of town, and that is in good weather. So I have to account for storms, power outages. We have to make sure that we always have food no matter what, because if we don't cook one night, we're not gonna just be zipping into town to go grab fast food. It's a bit more of a commitment, and so we tend to eat 90% of our meals here at home, which means I need to have a lot of food on hand, especially in the winter. I do try to stock up a lot in the winter to make sure that when we go into these seasons, we're totally set. Last winter was a great example. We had so much snow. I personally could not get my car out for almost 3 months, and that was with heavy equipment coming in, trying to get us out. As soon as they would come through and plow, the wind would blow it back over, so we could get Sam's big truck in and out, but my car was not getting in and out. And so with that limits us. Sam has to go to work, he would have trips, I would have trips, and when we only have one car and it's basically sledding into our house every night, we didn't even know if we would be able to get in. So going and doing a huge grocery haul just wasn't feasible, because if we get the groceries and then come back and it's snowed in, we're hiking in, and that means we don't really have a way of bringing in large bulk items. So the first reason we like to stock up is just to make sure that we always have enough food on hand, and that's something that I like to do in the good weather seasons to make sure that for the winter, we are all ready to go. So security is kind of to wrap that all up. We like to make sure that we have it for weather, and we've all seen from 2020 and all the craziness that things get short, people start panic buying. I want to make sure that we are always ready to go in case any of that happens. I don't have to worry about food shortages, or there's a flour shortage, or we can't get sugar, because I try to make sure that we always have a ton of that on hand. Obviously, when there's shortages and we continue to use it, our stocks can get depleted, but for the most part, we try to just kind of keep going, and then we don't have to panic buy or anything like that. So being prepared is our first and foremost reason that we like to have a lot of food on our pantry shelves. We don't actually have that much variety. We just have a lot of the same things because we know what we use, we know what we eat, and so we like to keep those things on hand. The next reason we like to bulk buy is because we save a lot of money. We are shopping primarily for bulk at Sam's Club. I would like to try Azure Standard, but it's about an hour. The pickup point is about an hour from my house, and with work and everything, if the times shift, I can't make that work. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to make Azure Standard work, but I do Sam's Club every now and again. And I like to stock up on things like rice and flour, salt, oil, vinegar, just kind of the basic things that really don't go bad. Stocking up means a lot of different things for different families. So there's only 2 of us. So a 50-pound bag of flour or a 25-pound bag of rice will last Sam and I like a year, like so long, because we don't really, there's only 2 of us, you know, we can only go through so much rice or so much flour, but I like to stock up on the things that don't go bad, because that way we can ensure that we're cutting down on packaging, we're saving money, and we always have it here for, you know, any situation that we might need or just day-to-day use. So it saves us a lot of money, and it also cuts down on packaging. The other reason I like to buy in bulk is I don't like running out of things. I am one of those people that have a backup for my backup. So if I'm running out of something in my fridge, guaranteed I have another one on the pantry shelves. And honestly, I was raised that way. We always had a storage room in my basement where we would have backups of things. And then as we would pull from those backups, we would add it to the shopping list, and my mom would go get it, or my dad would go get it on the next grocery pickup. So that was just something that was kind of instilled in me since a very young age. And it's so nice because I never have to be like, ooh, do we have this? Do we have that? Because I know as soon as I'm pulling, I'm going to add it to my list and will always have it. It's also nice because if I try to buy new things, I can tell what we like and what we don't like. So if we aren't going through things in the fridge and we've had something on the pantry shelf for a long time, I know that maybe that's not a hit and maybe we shouldn't buy that again. So I always have backups to my backups. I love it because I hate running out of things. I don't want to be in the middle of making burgers one night and think, oh, do we have ketchup? Great. No, what are we going to do? I hate that. So I always want to make sure that we have backups of literally everything. So that is the other reason I buy in bulk, is a lot of times you get 3 packs of things, so you can always make sure that you have those backups. Especially when there's 2 people, we don't go through it that fast, but we do know what we can go through fast enough to make sure that we're not wasting any of it. So with that, those are kind of the reasons I really like to have bulk groceries on my pantry shelf. Like I mentioned, there are only 2 of us, and so it's just important to me that I have enough for my family size. Obviously, if you're a family of 10, the bulk is going to look a lot different, but I do think it's important that you are responsibly saving food and storing up food for your family size. It would make absolutely no sense for me to have 300 pounds of flour sitting on my pantry shelf, because that would take Sam and I so many years to go through. Obviously, if you had a family of 10, that's gonna last you a couple of months. So it's all relative for the size of family you have, and that's always something to keep in mind as well. So I also like to remind people to only stock up on things that you use every day. So just start paying attention to the things that you're always using. Are you always using ketchup and mayonnaise? Do you like flour and sugar and baking things? If so, do you like condiments? Do you like baking? Do you like cooking certain things? Those are all things that you need to think about when you are coming up with your bulk storage, and make sure that you're only storing things that you actually use. I think it's a waste to stock up. If I were to go stock up on canned fruit, for example, I don't like canned fruit, and I know that. So it would be a waste, even though I feel like I should stock up on it, because what if there's a fruit shortage? So I'm finding ways to stock up on those types of things differently. And a perfect example is, I don't like canned fruit, but I like frozen and freeze-dried fruit. So we stock up on, here we freeze-dried some bananas, we have craisins as well. So we freeze-dry a lot of fruit, and I find that that is the way that I prefer to bulk store fruit, for example. We also have freeze-dried strawberries and apples. So in the case that we can't get to the store for, say, those 3 months again, it's not a problem. We might not have fresh fruit, but we have frozen and freeze-dried fruit. So just start thinking about the things that you actually like. Another example is, I always feel like when people start talking about food shortages, they always go straight to canned vegetables, and they think, I have to go get canned vegetables because we need to make sure that if we can't get fresh vegetables, we're okay. A lot of people, including myself, I don't love canned vegetables, and that's okay, but I do love frozen vegetables. So as you're starting to fill your pantry shelves and your freezers and any other storage items, make sure that you're actually freezing things that you use and that you actually enjoy. So that is so important. I was laughing, I was at someone's house the other day and they had a huge thing of canned green beans, and I was like, oh, these are great, let's use these. And they're like, I don't even know if they're good anymore. We picked them up in 2020 because we thought, well, if we can't get food, we might as well make sure we have vegetables, and we've never touched them. So I think that's a perfect example of only stock up on the foods that you genuinely enjoy and genuinely eat, and make sure that you're finding ways to incorporate those high fiber, high vitamin type foods like fruits and vegetables in a way that you actually enjoy them. So next, I just want to run you through the things that I keep pantry staple wise on our pantry shelves. And that would be primarily flours. So I have bread flour here. We also have regular flour usually, but you can see there's no lid on this. It is empty. So we need to get more of that. But if you're gluten-free, maybe you need to stock up on the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 baking mix. Just start thinking about that. So with just this flour, I can make breads, I can make pastas, I can make breakfasts, pancakes, waffles, cinnamon rolls. There are so many things that use flour as a staple, so I stock up on flour, and I also stock up on yeast. If you are stocking up on yeast, just stick it in your freezer and it will last literally forever. So I get a huge block of it at Sam's Club, and I just put it in a jar, stick it in the freezer, and you've got yeast for forever, and you can continue to make bread for literally forever with those 2 ingredients. Next back here I have rice. So one thing I know about Sam and I is we don't love brown rice. I know it's, you know, some people say it's really good for you. We really like jasmine rice, and so I only have jasmine rice. I know a lot of people have 15 different varieties of rice, and for us, I can get jasmine rice in bulk at a discount, and so it makes sense for us to have one variety of rice. So all we have is jasmine rice, but we have enough to last us about a year. So that's just one way that we are able to bulk buy, is we cut down on variety and we just focus on one variety of the different types of foods. The next thing I like to stock up on, here is our other, I guess one other thing to mention is I then just keep small containers of things. So I have a half-gallon mason jar of rice upstairs, and I have a small flour upstairs as well. And that's how I can keep these in bulk, is I just refill the small containers, and then they don't take up that much room in my kitchen. I also like to, like I mentioned, bulk buy baking things. So I always have baking soda, we always have baking powder, and just the necessary items in order to bake things. Along with baking, I have oils. I have a huge thing of olive oil. We also have a huge container of coconut oil and avocado oil. Those are the 3 oils, and I have enough room to store the 3 different types because I find that they are different enough that I like them for different purposes. So that's an example where we will have variety. I like avocado oil for like more savory dishes. I like avocado oil for baking, and I also like coconut oil for baking. And I also use coconut oil on my face as a makeup remover, just pure coconut oil. It works like a charm, and so we bulk buy those 3 oils. We also like to bulk buy vinegar, and when you're doing that, you need to make sure, if you plan on canning with it, that you are getting the vinegar that is 5% acidity. That is the only vinegar or more acid that is safe to can with. If you're getting like a 4%, that is not approved. So you don't want to be stocking up on things that you can't can with if that is your intention. I also use vinegar and baking soda as cleaning products, and so I count this as being stocked up on cleaning products as well. So I can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. Beyond that, we also like to stock up on beans. These are beans we grew in our garden last year actually, and so these are running low. I normally have a lot more, but this is a great example of some beans. And then behind us, I also have the big containers. So these are half gallons. I have chickpeas or garbanzo beans. I also keep pinto beans, black beans, and red beans, all in bulk because those are all things that I find we eat a lot of, and you can literally survive off of just beans. So I feel like if we were to ever get into, you know, job loss or an emergency or anything like that, we could literally survive off of our dried beans, and we have a lot more stored up than just this. And our rice and our flour and our baking products, we could live for forever. And so that's something that I like to keep in mind, is making sure that we're gonna have fiber and protein and carbs and fats in order to sustain us if we needed to do so. So beans are something I will always have on hand along with rice. I mentioned we freeze dry some fruit, so we always have that on the pantry shelf along with in the freezer. Then along with baking, salt is essential for our diet. So I have a ton of Redmond's real salt. It's just a small one to be able to show you. But I always have a lot of salt because we have to have salt to live. So I like to make sure that we have enough of that stored up. And I also like to have a sweetener of some sort. So here I have half a gallon of brown sugar. I also have white sugar on the pantry shelf, and that is so that we can sweeten things. Obviously, if we're making like breads, we might need like a dessert bread or something, so I like to have sweeteners on hand. And I also, in my pantry, always have bulk oats. So again, this is just the small one that I keep upstairs, but I always have oats on our pantry shelf. We could literally live off of oatmeal if we had to, but it just has a lot of protein and fiber, and I find that this is a breakfast that we could live off of, and it is great to keep on the pantry shelf. Not only that, it's really cheap, and it lasts for forever. So oats is another thing we always have on our pantry shelves. Then here I just have some more black beans. The last thing that we tend to keep in bulk, or we will always have, is meat. So we do a lot of hunting. If you're new here, Sam does a ton of hunting and I go along with him every now and again. We do fishing as well. So we have bird, large game, fish, and so we always have meat in the freezer. We try to be a year ahead in our meat to make sure that we have a year of meat saved up. That way, hunting is always uncertain. It's never guaranteed. So we want to make sure that if we have an unlucky year or something happens to the animals, great example this year, a ton of them were decimated by all of those snowstorms. So we want to make sure that we have about a year cushion of meat in order to just be safe. So we always have meat in the freezers. We also always have eggs. We have a ton of chickens, and so that is something that we preserve throughout the year, and we also just are getting fresh from those girls. And we have a huge garden, so lots of you come along for all of my gardening videos, but I really love gardening, and that is another way that we're able to keep fresh food here. So we freeze dry some of that, and then we can reconstitute it if we want to do it more as like a fresh way, or we put it in the freezers. We typically will blanch them and then put them in the freezers, and that way we always have garden fresh produce throughout the entire year. Another thing that I'm trying this year, and I will share those videos with you, is freeze drying meals. So trying to make our own meals, and we have a freeze dryer downstairs. I'm taking you along for that entire journey and making sure that we have full meals freeze dried on our pantry shelf just as an insurance policy backup, and we also use it for hunting trips, camping trips, backcountry trips, that kind of thing. So these are kind of the staples that we always have in our life, and that is how we are able to keep a fully stocked pantry year-round on a pretty good budget. We don't love to spend a ton on groceries. We like to use our resources as much as possible, hence the hunting, fishing, and gardening, the chickens, all of that. So these are just ways that we are keeping our pantry shelf stable. I wouldn't call us preppers by any means. Honestly, I feel like this is the bare minimum, and it's just important to make sure that you always have the means or the ability to feed your family in case an emergency comes up. I always want to make sure I know that I need to have food. I know I need to feed my family, and so that is something that I never want to stress about, because I want to know that in uncertain times we have everything we need to live for. I think we could easily live for probably easily 3 months right now, especially because it's summer. Realistically, I could probably keep us alive for a year just off of the things that we currently have in our house. And I think that is so important and is something that a lot of people don't think about, and it's not taught. So I'm hopeful that I can inspire you, if you don't already, to just bring a little bit of extra when you go to the store. If you know you like something, let's say you're buying a pack of meat, maybe rather than buying 1 pound, buy 2, use 1 this week and stick the other in the freezer, and just start saving up on food and just start adding a little bit at a time, and that way it is not such a burden on your budget or anything like that, and it's easier to store. So I hope this video inspires you to go take a look at your pantry shelf and just see what you can stock up on and be a little bit more proactive on. I'm not telling you to go prep for doomsday or the rest of your life. I just think it is so important that you have a little bit of food stored up to be able to keep your family going in a crisis. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions on any of our bulk food or how we store it, definitely leave those questions down in the comments below, and I will be sure to answer them. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit different, but I just feel like this is so important, and it is so near and dear to my heart because it's something I grew up doing and I've been doing my entire life. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, friend.